Lately, there's been a number of sanctions imposed on some corporate entities by regulatory bodies in the country, starting with the 1.4 trillion naira imposed on telecoms giant MTN by the NCC for non-registration of SIM cards to the 1 billion naira administrative charge on Guinness by NAFDAC. In the same vein, three banks, Skybank, First Bank and UBA, were also fined various sums ranging from 1.9 billion naira to 4 billion naira for non-disclosure of funds under the Treasury Single Account Scheme of the government. These sanctions have generated a lot of debate in the economy, with various bodies making their positions known. And the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the latest to add its voice to the debate, believes that there should be some restraint in the imposition of penalties in the interest of private sector development and the advancement of the nation's economy. Well, I'm now being joined on the news at 5 by Mr. Pascal Odibo, a financial consultant, to take a look at these issues and its implication on the economy. A good afternoon to you, Mr. Odibo.
Good afternoon, hi.
And thank you so much for joining me on the news. Now, first, how would you describe these sanctions? Are they desirable, given what some would describe as the level of complacency by some corporate organizations in the country?
Well, thank you for inviting me. Well, first of all, sanctions are supposed to be penalties, and penalties are supposed to serve as a deterrent to and send the signal to the market that this is how the environment is. You know, and here I must mention here clearly that corporates really need to abide by regulatory standards in the countries that they operate. However, if you will take this argument a little bit further, you will begin to notice a trend, and that's the concern to the organized private sector. Where you are beginning to see spate of sanctions back to back. On a consistent manner, and that begins to worry that this is if this is a trend, if this is a response to some kind of background information, guys go out there and get a certain figure for whatever we want to do going forward, then you will create a challenge, and that's the concern, that's the issue.
Okay, so now, Mr. Odibo, do you feel that most of the critics are concerned because it's more about the amount of money involved, or because of the kind of pressure it's putting on their business? What's really your view on that?
My view is that you don't kill a fly with a hammer. You will want to send a signal to the market that you're a no-nonsense regulator. The regulators are not income-generating agencies. They set the standards. A level playing field and good for everybody, so that everybody will be happy playing around. This is an emerging market, and there's what is called a competitive competition going out there in the environment.
But Mr. Odibo, sorry to cut you here. Do you feel that in meeting up to the standards, the regulators have hit more than they can, that they should? Because I mean, before you come in to do a business, you're giving your rules and regulations, and so you must abide by those rules and regulations. Standards must be set, and even though it is an emerging market, you must understand that these standards must be met. And you've been told that if you go contrary to these rules and regulations, you'll be penalized, whether financially or you'll be asked to leave the country.
But you need to understand a couple of things. Funding, finance, the kind of foreign capital you want in our environment is normally a shy commodity. It does not go where it is not respected. It will definitely find its level. What we're saying here is that you must set the standards by setting the rules right, and at the same time charge set the rules that will serve as a deterrent to operators in the market. However, when it begins to look as though it becomes a deterrent for business, then all voices of good conscience will raise their voice and say, "Look, this is now playing against the very essence of what you want." You can't be going around looking for foreign direct investment at the same time, in one hand, trying to scuttle what you're trying to do.
So you feel this will affect the ease of doing business in the country?
There is no doubt. Let me tell you something. I mean, I've played around in this industry and this market for a long time. The feedback one local international player gives back internationally is believed more than all the whatever information advertisements you do on the CNN or you do on channels or you do everywhere. So the point I'm making here is that yes, we must set the standards, but there must be a human face to what you're doing. If you said you want to employ people, then you do not do things that will make sure that the industries cannot employ people. If you charge 1.4 trillion, where do you think they're going to get the money from? They're going to cut short. I give you an instance. I know a bank that the moment it was hit with that 1 billion naira, it begins to renege on a couple of contracts that they had already signed on. Who suffered? The businesses that had contracts with them. Who suffered? Those that work with those businesses that had contracts with them. So what we need to understand here is that it is a balancing act. You are not an income generating agency. You're not generating, nobody's going to put a budget. You're not funding the budget of the federal government. You are trying to set the rules right, and you must be seen to be doing so.
So, Mr. Adibo, in terms of trying to set the rules right and trying to achieve a good balance, how best can these regulators appropriate sanctions on erring companies?
You've said it. All you need to do is you've set the standards, and people have failed, and they're negotiating with you. And I think that there should be a backdoor negotiation. And this has happened all over the world. Total BP had a charge in the U.S. And I also understand recently that MTN was even charged $600 something in Uganda. They all happen. But you must. My guess is this. My suggestion is this: you cannot kill a fly with a hammer. The figures we are hearing, at best, we don't want it to become a trend where the corporates are going to begin to be concerned and begin to wonder exactly what is playing out.
But then sorry. But, it's also very important for us to understand this. What will be acceptable in terms of sanctions that should be meted out to these companies?
And I hope you're getting me right. I am not for any corporate that, I'm not for corporate recklessness.
Okay.
But all I'm saying here is that there must be a balance. You are a growing economy, for goodness sake. There are alternative locations or avenues where these investors can take their monies to. And you are trying to diversify out of oil and gas. Now, these are areas you could diversify. And you're beginning to make it pretty hard for this guy. So it's common sense. There's nothing I'm saying here that looks ridiculous. It's common sense that you could slap with the right hand and pull back with the left hand because of the end game. The end game is to ensure that these businesses thrive and that they hire your people and you can diversify your economy. And the areas you now want to diversify in telecoms, in banking, and all that, you are now beginning to make it look as though you have been sent on an errand to recover a certain amount of money to bring into the budget, and that's a concern. These things should not deter, genuine investors. And again, I repeat, I am not for corporate recklessness. I'm saying that there could be better ways to engage and to re-engage these organizations.
Mr. Pascal Odibo, thank you so much for joining me on the News at 5 and sharing your perspectives with us.
Thank you very much.